Hello and welcome to another FL Studio 12 tutorial. Now these tutorials obviously apply to FL20 or FL11 or anything really. And today I'm going to be showing you how to get your toms onto your drum tracks. So, let's assume you've got a live drum recording here from, say, a rock song or, something that kind of requires that live drum sound, I've obviously got these samples in here from the last tutorial still. But, all these other drum sounds, they're all live, You've got the live bit of snare there, you've got hi-hats in there, overheads, and you've got your rack tom here. Now, the problem with your rack tom track is you've got this, rumbling sound in the background, because obviously rack toms kind of vibrate while you're playing the rest of the drums, and you kind of get this sound. Listen here. You hear what I mean? There's kind of this low-pitched, rumbling sound. Whenever the bass drum is played especially, you kind of hear it ring through in the rack tom. Like so. And that's really not something you want in your track. It makes it sound really muddy and it just really gets in the way of the other frequencies. So what you really want to do is apply a noise gate to any tom track. We're only using the rack tom on this particular song, but obviously this applies to any number of toms or any number of drums really where there's kind of a bit of a frequency that you don't want. Now, you might just think, okay, let's just apply the Fruity limiter. It's got a built-in noise gate. Why can't we just set a threshold, take the gain down, set a certain release, and do it? Well, I'll tell you what. Let's listen to where there's a tom here. Okay, so here we go. There's a tom in this bit of the track. Let's just find the threshold of that. About there. Put a nice release on it. Okay, you might think, well, there we go, we're sorted. But listen to this. Listen to this now. Listen to how many other sounds are being picked up by that noise gate. You've got all the snares passing through it. There's any kind of big crash sounds are probably passing through it as well. I mean, look, at this point in the song, basically everything is passing through that noise gate. So what you want to do is, you'll leave the noise gate in, but what I like to do is parametric EQ2. Now, you could use any EQ. This is really just my favourite EQ. This is personal preference. Now, you want to find the frequency of the toms. So we're going to turn the noise gate off, and let's go to a really tom-heavy part of the track like this. Now you want to find the general bit of the EQ where most of the tom frequencies are. So you can see it's kind of all occurring in this bass to low mid kind of area. So what we're going to do is go on this here, which is the high cut, or low pass, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to make sure it's set to either low pass or high shelf. We're going to go low pass. And we're going to set the order to steep 8. Now, this ensures that it's a very sharp cut-off, so really any frequency above that point will be cut out. So we're just going to drag that along until it matches up with where the general sound of the toms is down here. I'm going to try and cut out as much of that snare as possible. See, if we have it about there, you can see the snare has a strong frequency about here. So if we just put it just below that, you really cut out a lot of that snare there. So we're going to make sure this EQ is before our noise gate, our limiter. So we can turn the limiter back on now, and as you'll see, if we just bring the noise gate threshold down a little bit, it is now only picking up the toms. All these snares are really, really quiet now because we've cut out all those other frequencies. We've really just got the frequencies that the rack tom is producing. Now, obviously, this will be different frequencies for different tuned toms and whatever, but you really just need to find the cut-off point on your parametric EQ. You might as well disable these other tracks or these other whatever like points on the EQ because it does use a lot of CPU parametric EQ too compared to other EQs, but I really do like the layout. So, you know, we've cut out all those other frequencies now, and we've basically just gated the tom. We've not, listen, it's just the tom. It's only the tom drum. It's not picking up any snare. It's not letting any other drum through the noise gate. But the problem we have now is we're just left with this really bassy sound. It doesn't really sound like a tom anymore. It just sounds like this bassy kind of thud, like a sort of bass drum almost with a really long release on it. So what we want to do now is we want to make sure we've got that EQ open somewhere so we can look at it, and we're going to put another EQ after the noise gate, after the limiter. Now obviously you don't even have to use Fruity Limiter, you could use any noise gate for this, but I think make sure it's a nice visual one so you can kind of see where the peaks are. Now all we're going to do here is we don't need these again, we can disable them, and all we're going to do is copy and paste basically the settings of this, so they're exactly the same frequency, and make sure it's exactly the same order. The steep 8 again, make sure that's exactly the same, the bandwidth and the frequency, and we're just going to put it in the exact opposite position. So we're just going to put it up. Now in fact we don't even need to do that, we can just go type and we can go high pass. Now the problem with that is that it's cutting out the frequencies. We're just going to put it up like that. So this is now basically the opposite of that. That has cut out those frequencies by 12 dB. I think it might be better actually as a high shelf. And then if we drag that down, it's more visual now. Now you can see that it's dragged that down by 18 dB, done the noise gate, and then it's adding it back in after the noise gate plus 18 dB. So we're now going to be left with the original tom sound, but it's going to be completely noise gated. Completely gated. Let's listen to that tom heavy part of the track again. We might want to have a little bit of a faster release. So there we go, we're left with a nice gated, natural sounding tom. We've added those frequencies back in with this second EQ, and we've used this to eliminate any of the other drum sounds from the noise gate. So thank you for watching, hope this helps you, and goodbye.